Welcome to Career Eden, where your career resides. This is the podcast that discusses all of your questions about training and education, all your concerns regarding your career path, and the things you should consider when deciding where to live. On episode number 1 of Career Eden, we discuss the who, what, when, where, and the why of the show. My name is Jonathan Christopher, your host of Career Eden. Thank you for joining us on the Career Eden podcast. This is the premiere episode of the show, and I'm going to give you a little bit of information about what we have planned for this podcast. So I have a passion for teaching. I especially have a passion for geography, and I love traveling, and not to mention research. I love research. So this show is a way for me to combine those things that I like to do and hopefully help my audience in discovering where they want to live, or rather, if they even know where they already want to live, how to get there, the best career to get to where you want to live. Or if you're already in a certain career, what places are most compatible with that career. And there's a lot of considerations before making a decision about what do you want to do or where you want to live. But hopefully, if you listen to the podcast, you can benefit in, taking all the knowledge that I've already gathered, the research techniques that I've already established in order to help you decide what's best for you, what's best for your family. So I want to share a little bit about myself. Basically, I was a teacher for a long time, about 7 years. I was also an administrator for 3 years after that of a high school. Actually, it was a alternative program specifically for adjudicated youth and troubled teenagers, basically. And although I spent 10 years in education, and I really enjoyed education and teaching, the truth is that actually it was never my passion. And passion is really overused, but it truly wasn't my passion. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't what kept me motivated. And to be honest, when I actually went to college, I majored in pharmacy, which is funny because the only reason I majored in pharmacy was because I didn't get the right counseling from my counselor. And my counselor was awesome, but there were some gaps. There were questions that I had that I guess didn't give me a complete picture of what I wanted to be. And the truth is that I wanted to be a medical doctor. I had a lot of good mentors. I had a lot of encouragement to pursue that. And unfortunately, at the time, you think to yourself, wow, all that school for becoming a medical doctor takes forever. I want to live my life now. So you kind of get, well, for me, let me speak for myself. I decided, maybe just being any kind of doctor is good enough. So I went with pharmacy, 6-year commitment. Unfortunately, even then, because my heart wasn't in it, I got distracted and my grades took some hits and I had to change my major anyway. So money was getting tight and I needed to finish up. So I graduated with a history degree. And I finished up strong. Unfortunately, it wasn't actually my dream goal. I always wanted to work in medicine. So I kind of drudged along and kind of accepted history and accepted teaching as my route. But after realizing from several sources, more mentors, and just exposure and that constant hunger to do what I really wanted to do, I decided to, after 10 years in education, I decided to go ahead and return to university, get my courses that I needed to apply, study for the MCAT, take it, and prepare for med school. And that's actually kind of what prompted this podcast to be launched. A hunger for doing what you want to do, living where you want to live, and knowing how to get there, and marrying your career with your Eden, your geographic place of perfection. So that's where we're at. That's who I am. I'm a teacher who loves to research, who's traveled pretty. There are people that travel a lot more than me, but I've traveled a fair amount, and I realized that there are places that if I didn't know about, or if I hadn't gone and seen in person, I would never realize that they're so beautiful or they're so perfect for me. They're my Eden. So I want to make sure that other people have the ability, have the resources, use my resources to realize their dreams and marry their career with their Eden. So again, what this show is about choosing the best profession and the best places for people. And if you already have one of those down, if you already know where you want to live, if you're already living where you want to live, making sure that you're in the right business, making sure that you're in the right field. Or if you are in the other category and you are in your right field and you've already found what you want to do, then where's that place that you really want to be? Are you where you want to be? And if you're not, trying to make sure that we find a way to get you there. It's not a matter of just picking up and going. Some people make that mistake of just, throwing caution to the wind and going for it. And I commend those people that manage to get it to stick, throwing something up there and getting it to stick on the wall. But there are a lot of people out there that realize that, there's some preparation that goes into a big step, especially if you have a family, or other considerations. And that's what Career Eden is. We want to get people and places and professions together. So this podcast, I have in mind a weekly posting, and I've given a lot of thought to what kind of format to follow. And originally I was thinking, well, it became a consideration of whether it should be an interview format or whether it should be where a talking head, I guess, that's not the correct term, but if I was just going to share some info points or have people simply email or leave voicemail and I answer their particular concerns on air or what have you on the show, I decided to go with the interview format because I think there's a lot more knowledge that can be shared if I invite people from particular places that can share their expertise about, what they know about a particular area, a particular field, a particular career path. There are people, my specialty is in gathering the information. So I could gather a lot of information on a lot of different places and present it to you, for people that are not looking for those tourist and travel, data points that, there's a lot of podcasts about traveling and tourism. But that wasn't my avenue. I wanted to talk about, hey, these are places you should consider living or these are, things you should consider doing if you want to live in X place, and that's the little niche that I want to carve out. So yeah, it'd be fun. Invite some people, some professionals in to talk about, what they know, and things that can help people decide on relocation or a skill set. And we want to do this every week. So, there's several ways that I have in mind that we're going to be posting. We're going to, put the feed up, the RSS feed on iTunes and Stitcher. I may include YouTube and some other avenues. But the best place that as soon as I get it up and working would be the website. If you subscribe or send out your email, sign up for the email list for my website, then I'd definitely be able to get you the links to every episode. So we should get that launched soon, hopefully this week. But yeah, I will be posting this show on both iTunes and Stitcher, guaranteed. The reason I chose podcasting for this show is because I've realized that podcasting is more accommodating for people like myself that are busy. Like I said, I'm still actually studying and hopefully applying to med school within the next year. But, it's more compatible to listen to audio while you cut the grass or while you commute, than to make a video format or even a blog. You may not have the luxury of having your eyes and your complete focus on what you want to do or what you're, researching or learning. We live busy lives, and I want to make sure that I choose a platform that fits my platform, that fits my lifestyle, and maybe fits my listeners' lifestyle best. And I think that podcasts are really blowing up, and I've found that pretty much every week I'm subscribing to a new one. I'm going to have to cut some and figure out where my ears are most, or which shows are most valuable for my, for my personality and for what I want to learn. And while there's maybe some things that are entertaining about this podcast, some elements that I may include that are entertaining, fun facts and what have you, the truth is that this podcast is for people who are really serious about discovering the place that they're meant to be. Why you should listen to the show is because, you love hearing about, or you love preparing for major decisions in your life, and you want to make sure that you don't leave any loose ends. You may owe that to your family. You may owe it to yourself. You shouldn't have to learn everything on your own, but rather learn from the experiences and the knowledge set and the skill set that other people have. Why am I doing the show? I love research. I love geography, and I enjoy teaching. And for now, this is actually going to start off as a hobby, and we'll see where it goes from there. I already have several shows that I have in mind. I have several guests that I have in mind. I have several series that I have in mind, and we will be, pushing through and making sure that, we get the right things to you in a timely fashion. So hopefully it'll be every week, and that will be rather enjoyable and manageable too. So I wanted to thank a few people that inspired me to do this. and gave me some resources and their knowledge set and their skill set to prepare and execute this podcast. So I wanted to thank certain podcasters like Ray Ortega of the Podcaster Studio, Daniel J. Lewis of Audacity to Podcast, and David Jackson of the School of Podcasting, all of whom I subscribe to, and I learn every day or every week things to make my podcast launch successful, or at least entertaining or helpful. So Ray Ortega, Daniel J. Lewis, David Jackson, thanks again. And congratulations to all the other podcasters that have decided to take on this avenue, this medium, and launch their own podcast. And let's keep it going. I enjoy them. I also wanted to thank some close friends, my wife, Mary Lou Christopher, who is very patient and very loving and supportive, and I wouldn't be able to do it without her help. I also want to thank Derek Braxton, who supplied the music for the podcast. For podcasters out there, you may know music is expensive, music is hard to find. The music industry is very cutthroat, and they are serious about everything. So I was quite fortunate that Derek stepped up and said, hey, you can choose from a couple of my songs here. So thank you, Derek Braxton. Also, I wanted to thank Greg Sartiano, who's an audio engineer. He basically, used his time to show me the ins and outs of what to do with my audio in terms of making it sound acceptable. When you get into things like RMS and LUFS and compression and EQ and these things, that's not my skill set, and that's where Greg decided to help me out. All I did was ask. So thank you, Greg Sartiano, for your time. So I wanted to add, or at least offer, some examples of how important it is that we live in the right place for us. History always provides some background for our lives, and it's never irrelevant. Civilization as we know it started off in river valleys, whether it's the Nile River and the civilization that sprung out of it, as we know, Egypt. Mesopotamia rose out of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. India rose out of the Indus and Ganges rivers. And China, was built on the banks of the Yellow River and the Yangtze River. These civilizations were very far apart from each other, for the most part. And they all formed around river valleys. None of them decided to reinvent the wheel. They knew there were certain things that city-states and large population centers would need. They would need fresh water, steady supply of food, transportation, all of these things rivers provided. And so to this day, you'll see that some of the largest cities are built where on the banks of rivers or along certain bays and coastlines. And it's not an accident. If you were to clear the earth of all its civilizations and use an eraser and just erase over everything, it's almost inevitable that these civilizations, if we restarted humanity, would always form, using the same guidelines, the fresh water, transportation that rivers provide inland and upstream and downstream, and you know, the convenience of the food being there, your fresh water supply, and that's ancient times, and that's what was valuable in forming the civilizations that we all sprung out of. So, geography and career always intersect, and nothing has changed. It's been more convenient. We no longer need to be married to the rivers in order to establish our cities. We have cities in deserts. We have whole entire civilizations that are in places that are inhospitable, but there's a reason. There's an economic reason, and we'll discuss those further in this show. I want to thank you for listening to the first episode of the podcast. Please subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher, and visit the website and sign up for the email list. And I look forward to speaking with you again. Thank you.